Okay, well, so I've got Andrew McCutcheon, who's the client director at iFeel, with me today. Welcome, Andrew, to the podcast.
Thanks very much, Ben. Good to be here.
Good to talk to you. And you guys are exhibiting at the show today. So how's it felt so far?
Yeah. It's been awesome so far. I think we're still fairly early on in proceedings, but
Yeah.
we've been busy. There's 6 of us on stand now, and I'm glad
Good.
we've all come down.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes these first mornings are the best times of these shows, aren't they? Because all the people walking around have got energy, all the people on your stand have got energy. So
That's it.
good stuff. So you're one of the speakers here
Indeed.
today.
Yes.
On the stage. Which stage are you on?
So we're on the workshop stage.
Okay.
Speaking at 2:30 this afternoon, and my colleague Angie, our head of corporate clinical, has also got a speaking slot tomorrow as well.
Okay. And so just tell us a bit about what you're going to be talking about. Is it the hidden cost of mental health? Give us a bit of a feel for what that's about, and I guess how that connects to what iFeel are about and what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. So don't want to give away too many spoilers, but I think it's important in these contexts, in this scenario, to bring a little bit of personal insight to proceedings. So if people will indulge me, I'll share a personal story, my own experiences over recent times that ultimately drew me to iFeel in the first place, and then of course we'll do a deeper dive into the costs of mental health at a real business level. I think everyone is aware of the growing need for support from a mental health perspective, but actually how can our solution provide a business solution at scale to what is an increasing business problem?
Yep. Okay. So yeah, give us a feel for them for the so the kind of the issue that's sitting behind this is the hidden costs that organizations are experiencing, and I guess part of what's inherent in that is they are hidden, so businesses may not be aware of them. What are the sort of the key costs that you're thinking about there?
Yeah, so we take a full spectrum and holistic approach to mental health. So for us, it's about taking employee assistance programs, EAPs, to the next level. Traditionally, they've been quite reactive and have, may I say, struggled at times with engagement rates. There are those that utilize it and will get a benefit from it, which is great. But we want to make sure that level of support is always tailored to the individual's needs. It's available when they need it, wherever they need it, right?
So I guess that's about being able to reach everybody.
There's an accessibility piece.
Yeah.
There's definitely a scalability piece. But most importantly, it's about providing the right level of care for people when they need it.
Yeah.
And also giving that level of insight through the data analytics to be able to help navigate and create a strategy for the organization to actually hone in on the underlying trends within the organization through the provision of trainings and workshop content that we also provide as well. So a fully comprehensive solution to mental health.
So are you helping the organizations to build their overall strategy then for
absolutely
mental health?
So it all starts with understanding what the landscape looks like for them at present. Okay, so we would enter into a knowledge sharing really early on in the discussions and the partnership to analyze their demographic data for their employee base, understanding what average cost of salaries, average duration of absenteeism looks like, etc., etc. We've built all sorts of wonderful data sets and clinical modeling over the last 7 years to be able to then identify and pinpoint the high-risk cases and the symptomology of demographic populations that we can really then start to hone in on. But that's all the pre-launch work to help build the business case for the individual organization. Then the really exciting stuff happens in a 6-month pilot process.
Okay.
Where we then actually can see the clinical impact and the financial impact over months 3 to 6.
Okay.
And then it's about building that business case for a much wider rollout, basically.
Okay, so by pilot you mean a smaller. You don't just mean a short period with everyone. You mean a smaller population.
Exactly. We tend to work on ideally a representative sample, so you get a real true indication with your own live data of what the actual impact would be in that wider rollout scenario.
Yeah. So I guess that does provide a certain level of safety for for clients to engage with this?
It's about
Yeah.
building a level of confidence.
Yeah.
As I said, no one's really done what we've done, how we've done it before. It's not completely foreign in the sense that it's providing video, chat, therapy, and self-guided learning content to employees. So each one of those elements isn't revolutionary. I'd argue our triage process is to be able to identify the level of risk and give the right level of care. But it's, as a complete solution, something that is quite different.
It's
so
a blend,
of course
yeah.
we've got to build that confidence in the community, build that trust within the stakeholders at an enterprise global level, for them to see the value of themselves. And the value is compelling clinically and financially.
Okay. And so and you talked about, so your talk is on the hidden costs. What are the, just talk a bit about the, I mean, you know, the classic ones are obviously absence, aren't they? You know, absence and presenteeism, whatever that is. But is that, are they the main cost and outcome, business level outcomes, if you like, that organisations are looking at, or is it broader actually than that?
Yeah. So it's complex, right? There's whenever we want to analyze the performance of an organization or the impact on absenteeism, for example, there can be, over any given period of time, a multitude of other external factors that come into play. Okay. So actually the real trick here is, trick perhaps the wrong word, the real secret here is to actually hone in and focus on one clearly definable measurable, and to then be able to explain and extrapolate and find that causation in the inputs and the value of the iFeel solution to that one metric. And the metric that we are honing in and focusing on is absenteeism.
Right. Okay.
So we tend to see at the moment a year-on-year reduction in absenteeism by 20%.
Okay.
Year-on-year, by providing that level of care to take people from a high risk to a medium risk, from people medium to low, and also reducing the amount of time that people were spending away from work due to mental health from 2 weeks to 1 week, from 1 week to 2 days, etc.
And why do you settle on absenteeism? Because that's the most universally accepted measure by organisations.
So one, yes, absolutely, it's already a well-known quantum of measure. Two, it has a direct financial impact as well on the business, right? If we're analysing what the average salary is of the individual organisation and analysing that there's X number of absenteeism days, there's a fairly straightforward financial metric that can then justify. We don't like to talk about ROI because it can be quite crude sometimes, but through that clinical modelling, we can see a real positive financial impact as well as the clinical benefit of your risk profile reducing for your organisation.
And I guess most organisations, they don't with absenteeism, they don't have to scramble around for data in the way that they might do for other things. I'm also, I mean, I've done some research on presenteeism, for example, and obviously there's lots of memes and narrative around the cost of presenteeism being greater than absence. I'm a bit skeptical about that personally, but where do you stand on that when organisations talk to you about presenteeism? Do you include that in the measure, or
it's a really good point, and for us that's very much part of our evolution and future thinking. So my colleague Ange, our head of our corporate clinical team, said speaking tomorrow. She is leading up a project utilizing the data and insights we get from our existing client portfolio, collaborating with our clinical research team, our in-house team of researchers, to basically now start to investigate, to build white papers out on the topic of presenteeism. We'll be looking to in partnership with our existing clients to start to focus in and capture the right data sets around that, to be able to then publish white paper, plural, and then in a year or two's time that'll become a key metric for us as well. So we don't want to overstate and overpromise on things that we don't have enough scientific rigor on just yet. And that's coming.
I mean, I think presenteeism is interesting because it's one where there's a lot of noise around it, and various sort of conclusions have been drawn, but then I think they've been drawn based on one or two pieces of research many years ago, and it's become a narrative. The stuff I did on it was interesting because we went right back to this is my last job. We went right back to sort of base principles of what we're looking at here, and actually, what we did a literature review, and then we collected some data, and it ended up that really what you're talking about is working whilst unwell, of which there are some functional types, and there's one dysfunctional type, which is kind of true presenteeism. So the other two types are actually, we were calling them, if you like, it was like pragmatic presence and therapeutic presence. So pragmatic presence if you're unwell, but not so unwell that working will make you more unwell, if you like. You make your own choice to work whilst a bit under the weather, productivity a bit down, but you're okay to work, particularly if you're working from home. Therapeutic, you might be coming back from a long-term sickness and you want to work. Your productivity is probably quite a lot down, but it's good for you. You want to do it. All of that is being captured under presenteeism at the moment, along with true presenteeism, which is when you really shouldn't be working because you're unwell and it's going to make you worse and it's not good for anybody and all of that stuff. And so I think the conclusion we reached was that looking at it that way was not only would it be more constructive and a better conversation, give you more levers to pull, but it would mean that the numbers around presenteeism would drop, quite markedly.
And I think we're in unprecedented times. It feels like you can kind of say that any given calendar year these days, but we kind of truly are. Businesses are going back to a much more in-office stipulation. We have all that's going on, should we say, across the pond, and the impact that's having for our global enterprise partners. And I think actually the important thing here is to be truly mindful of all those external factors and pressures and the impact that they can have. And that's why we're not going to rush into putting our marker in the sand and saying this is the metric and this is an absolute, because it's way more complex than that, but we'll get there, and we'll be publishing our findings over the next year or so.
Good. So we'll look out for those.
For sure.
So I want to bring you back to something you said at the start. Then, so you have a personal story around this. So tell us that if you don't mind.
Yeah, without perhaps oversharing too much, and I'm mindful not to do so in the actual talk as well. So in 2022, I had multiple personal bereavements within my family and immediate friendship group. I was working in a previous company, and I was fortunate enough to already have a trusted relationship with a leadership coach, Nikki Parker. Nikki, just by chance, was also a trauma specialist practitioner as well. So whilst I've been originally in early stages of 22, been focusing on my professional development and leadership skill set, I'd clearly built a great rapport with her. I knew she was available at any time, anywhere through our previous company platform. The sort of list of or the beginning of those tragedies was incredibly sudden. But long-standing as well, right? So I was caring for my father at his hospital bedside for a number of months, and I was able to lean in and utilize Nikki's professional support from that personal perspective rather than the professional. She also opened my eyes to the value of that, and that then enabled me to speak confidently and really, quite frankly, insist that my mother, for example, is engaged with a bereavement therapist. That's had a profound impact on her. So on and so forth. I won't go into too much more of the details here. Perhaps if people want to join the session, there's a little bit more I can share. Suffice to say, personally, I completely sold on the value and the benefit of having that specialist therapist available to me to support and build up my own emotional resilience, to help me to continue to juggle the balances of a young family. Actually, that year, 2023, was my most successful I've ever had in a work environment even despite all of that, and I just know, hand on heart, I would have had to take at least one major prolonged period of absence from work if it wasn't for the support I was getting. So understanding then that was really just a case of pure chance, that my leadership coach was also specialist in the areas that I need from a personal level. It broadened my eyes to say, okay, well, other people need that available to them. That's quite an extreme case, granted, but actually there's a lot of people that just
going through this all the time, though.
Exactly. And there's some stats there at a macro level we can talk about, and I'll share around the impact and the trends that we're seeing. But really understanding that a company like iFeel was out there, that was originally a B2C provider in 2017 when they were established, and last year pivoted to focus on B2B enterprise level solutions. It everything just aligned with my values and my experience, and it was a no-brainer that I joined the organization last year to evangelize and talk to Good Self and at these sorts of exhibitions, but to really help to bring that value at an individual level, and of course at a business level as well.
Yeah, I mean, so clearly when something like that happens, it's an in any case, it's an enormous perspective changer, isn't it? Absolutely. But I can really hear from the way you talk about it that sometimes that perspective change can not be a positive thing. People aren't automatically programmed to take something positive from these things and to be able to move through it. So it sounds like really that help that you had and the help that was on hand was instrumental in making sure that it was, it can't be good, can it? But that it was constructive.
There's no silver bullet to this terrible thing's happened, therefore do this and all will be amazing, right? It's a journey that you'll go on. There has to be that level of relationship with the person you're speaking to, that level of trust. And interestingly, actually, and I'm not going to be sharing this in the presentation, but actually just to elaborate on that as well. So actually, Nikki, as cruel fate would have it, was also going through her own bereavement scenario, and there was a window where actually she had to take herself away to deal with her scenario. But because we'd done the work we'd done, and I'd been empowered and armed quite subliminally, almost really, with the techniques and tools to deal with what I needed to do, I could actually start to have an internal dialogue and almost coach myself through the problems. I didn't need that instant crux all the time. That was a little way on in the process, but it's powerful.
But then that tells you how much where you've moved to, that you've become a different person almost to where you were before, to have that capability. For sure. I mean, to be honest with you, I had a similar thing last summer. Two people, one my wife's best friend, another my brother-in-law, within a week of each other, died in their 40s, and I actually probably wouldn't be sitting here today doing this if it wasn't for that, because actually I was the MD of a health and wellbeing business, and I decided to make a change as a largely as a result of that. And I didn't have that support. I wish I had, but it was a fundamental mindset shift, but also almost to honor those people, to do it constructively.
Absolutely. And you realize as well that I talk about it later, but I hate the pigeonholing of Gen X, Gen Y, baby boomers, but essentially 35 to 55-year-old demographic that I'm now pretty squarely in the middle of. I don't know if there's a harder time in your life, at the risk of potentially being a little bit preachy, but if you think about it, invariably we're juggling our daily life deprived of sleep because we've got young families and all the pressures and joys and general
fighting if you've got two boys like me.
Well, I've got two young girls and anyway, we're trying to climb a corporate ladder of sorts typically, so we're taking on more demanding roles, higher pressures. We're taking on the burdens of people in our teams because we're their manager, and that's what we're meant to do. We're dealing with and caring for elderly parents that may have dementia or whatever, or we might be unfortunately saying goodbye to them and managing all of that. And yet we're the driving force of organizations, 35 to 55. All right, we're not sitting necessarily in the C-suite of organizations at the top end, perhaps, but guys doing the hours.
Yeah.
And you've
Making
got to
the
have
sales, keeping
gotta-
the clients happy.
You've got to have that mental capacity to actually really realize that the most important bit is outside of work. So yeah, we'll explore the balances of forward-thinking organizations in the talk, actually understanding that work-life balance isn't dealing with those two as separate entities, that they're not work is work and life. No. Forward-thinking organizations understand the impact that work has on our balance outside of work. And actually it's the responsibility of every leader to, at least in the very first instance, be aware of that and then be able to support that. And if I can bring it back to iFeel, and to lean on the expertise of a partner, a trusted partner, to as I said, deal with the expertise bit, but give a level of insight to help the organization know they're doing the right thing and do more of the right thing to help have a wider impact.
Yeah. And I think, organizations, that you can look around you today, there's so much choice out there, isn't there? And, I think a lot of organizations have been burnt by making bad choices, but I do think that shouldn't be, that's not the way it has to be. There are trusted providers out there, and but it's also about going in. I've been on the other side of this for many years, selling health and wellbeing consultancy. I'm not now, but I know that those kind of trusted relationships, they take a lot of effort on both sides. It's not just about there's a way that employers need to engage with those relationships and be all in, be real true partners, if you like. It cannot be transactional to get that value that you're talking about.
And I think we see, if you look at the landscape, just generally speaking, across the UK anyway, we see wellbeing has traditionally been pigeonholed and almost palmed off to our benefits and some sort of perk that people should feel grateful for having access to an online meditation app or what have you. Nothing against meditation app. We have meditation content within our app.
But it's not a solution in itself.
Back to your point, it's a transactional tick box exercise, which for some people occasionally may have value. Great.
Yeah.
But we can do more than that.
Yeah.
And if we can just through in our approach, through analyzing your own data, see the results in your own pilot, you see that actual positive impact clinically and financially at a business level, the business case writes itself. We'll write it, but the business case basically writes itself because it's your data.
Yeah.
And it becomes a very compelling. It moves from that nice to have to must have, basically, and all the while we're doing the best, not just the right thing, the best thing for your individuals.
Yeah, that combination of organizational, of a data driven, but also personalized. Yeah.
Let's not lose fact. This is business must essentially pay for this. Of course they must. It's a commercial proposition at the end of the day. But we will never lose sight of the personal impact that it has and the value it has to your individuals. And then there's so many additional benefits, if you bring it back to that benefit categorization, so many additional benefits for the organization that we're not even measuring around retention, around job satisfaction, around engagement.
Employer brand, all of that. Yeah. Good stuff. So we're reaching the end of our time. Let me ask you one question then before you go. If you're thinking about, I guess, people listening to this, but also the people more importantly the people who are going to be in your session later, what's the one thing you want them to take away from this show and particularly the experience of hearing the input that you're going to give?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I would like them to have a natural curiosity, to go out there and question what the status quo is within their organization. Do they really believe that as an organization that work and life are two separate entities and actually the right thing is to make sure people aren't working at weekends? Or are they more open, and do they have an appreciation that actually there might be a better way to do things? To have that natural curiosity to challenge the status quo and see what else is out there. There's some amazing solutions out there.
So be brave and be curious.
Curiosity comes first, right? I would like to think once they learn more and they see the data, then it's less of a leap of faith, less bravery required. But of course, we'll be there to hold their hands for sure.
Good stuff. Thank you, Andrew. Really enjoyed this chat and enjoy the rest of the show.
Thanks so much. Cheers, man. Bye.
Cheers.